These guys walk in. All right, I've got 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013 Board of Works meeting to order. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Roll call. Carol Sue, please.
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Chris Armstrong. Here. Ron Miller.
Present.
All members are present and accounted for. Approval of minutes, January 16th, 2013.
I've read them, and I would make a motion that we approve as presented the minutes from the January 16th meeting.
Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on a vote of 3-0. Approval of claims in the amount of $175,167.06.
That's different from what I've got last week. I would make a motion for the approval of the claims as presented in the amount of $175,167.06.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. I have looked through the claims and I see nothing out of the ordinary. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the claims as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes on a vote of 3-0. There are no licenses to be considered. Are there any changes to the agenda?
None.
Hearing none, are there any visitor comments? Okay, hearing none. Is there any old business? No. I'm sorry, no old business, with the exception of a request by Little Turtle to move a fence, and I see Craig Renneman is here. Craig, can you come forward, please? Thanks for being here.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. The request has been submitted, and we have the sketch. I believe it's the very same sketch that was submitted last week. I don't think anything had changed on it. Can you tell us a little bit about the request and what's going on with it?
Oh, as I said last week, it is simply realigning the fence to reflect the actual right-of-way of the railroad in that location, and adding the possibility, adding parking for events, lots of spaces.
Parking for
Events.
Oh, for events.
You know,
okay.
whatever. You know, not to be parked.
Okay.
There's a rule there, but you know, it's right at the gateway crossing. You know.
Okay. I have a couple questions. I was able to go down and take a look at it.
Good.
So I can picture in my mind exactly what the request is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's my understanding that there's no objection by the railroad to doing this.
The railroad is just the railroad. The railroad has a right-of-way that extends to the fence that's closest to the railroad in that location.
Okay. Does the railroad right-of-way extend to the west in the same direction? I'm trying to...
To the best of my knowledge, the railroad right-of-way from Elm Street to the confluence. I may be incorrect about that. I'm not sure exactly about the extent of where the right-of-way is.
Sure.
Is whatever the dimension is of the fence that's there close to the railroad tracks now, as opposed to its normal 25 feet from the center of the rail line.
From the center of the rail line.
Yes.
Please bear with me. I'm trying to understand this. It's very confusing. All I have really to judge this decision on is this map, and I don't really have anything else that spells out exactly what we're doing. I mean, I can visualize the request by the drawing, but I'm having a hard time understanding exactly where the right-of-way is and how far west the right-of-way extends. Does the railroad object? Does this create any issues with the planning department? Does it create issues with the street department? Does it create issues with the utility department? Because I see that utility box there as well. Is the utility going to going to require some kind of a parking buffer, a guardrail around their equipment that's there? I could see that being a potential hazard,
It's currently not fenced as it is.
but it's not allowed for parking as it is either. I mean,
True.
I think we're inviting cars to park next to the utility box that's there,
True.
which could lead to future problems with that. I certainly want to be accommodating in making that place as functional as possible, but at the same time, I think we have interest of the utilities, interest of the railroad, and interest of the street department that we also have to take into consideration before we can do this. I think that we need to reach out to all those people and see if, first of all, if there's an objection, if there's a legal requirement that we have to meet, if we can
As far as blockage for the utility transfer?
blockage for the utility transformer, as well as the impact that this would have on our street department as far as snow removal. Does it become another parking lot that the city's responsible to plow? Does it infringe on any rights that the railroad may have? I just don't know. The only thing I have to base this decision on.
It does not infringe on the rights of the railroad.
Okay.
You can rest assured of that.
Okay.
Because it's not, the difference in their normal right-of-way is well beyond whatever, it goes at least till 3rd Street.
Okay. It goes at least till 3rd Street.
Goes at least till 3rd Street.
Do we have a legal description that says that says where the right-of-way is? Those are the kind of things I'm looking.
I don't have it on my possession right now.
Okay. And those are the kind of things that I think we have to have before we can make the decision on this, to make sure that we're doing everything the right way. It was my understanding last week that this wasn't anything that had to be done in a timely fashion, but I'm sure you want to do it within a reasonable amount of time, possibly by spring.
Yeah, by the next event.
Yeah, and the next event is?
I don't know.
Yeah. I strictly, and this is only me, I think we need to give those other agencies a chance to respond to this, to make sure that they're comfortable in the decision, to see if there's any other requirements that are going to need to be done. The planning department, street department, utilities, and lastly, I guess to give our attorney the opportunity to review the setbacks and make sure that this is not going to infringe on railroad property whatsoever. If it's good with that, if it's good with all those people, then I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd make that motion that we, I don't know if the term's table or not, but that we seek the input from the plan department, street department, utilities department, and the attorney with respect to the fence and the right-of-way for the railroad property.
I would second the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Anything, Craig, that you'd like to add? Okay. It's been moved and properly seconded. There's no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. We'll take it under advisement and get back with you.
Okay, so you'll be talking to me about.
Yeah, we need to talk to all those groups.
Mention it to the other entities?
Yes, absolutely. I will mention it to street department, planning department, reach out to the railroad, see if we can get, and the city attorney, and see if, and utilities.
Like I say, the railroad is fine.
Okay. Well, we'll have the city attorney review that.
I like it, but they gave the right of way a long time ago, and it's best not to bother the railroad because they're a pain in the neck. At any given time, they're a pain in the neck to work with.
Okay.
And
We'll reach out to all those people, try to get a response. We'll get back with you after we hear back.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Under old business, also we have, I see Tony Hayden here with the YMCA. Tony, if you could come forward.
Good morning.
Hi, Tony. Good morning. We have before us a request to conduct the 4th annual Shamrock Shuffle, and you need permission from the Board of Works.
That is correct.
We understand what you're doing. The city wants to be as helpful as we can in allowing you to do these things, and we're glad for your involvement and the activities that you bring forth for our people to participate in. We do have a problem.
I understand.
And if memory serves me correctly, we discussed this with the last request, which would have been, I think, maybe the turkey trot last year. We specifically requested that the streets not be painted. When the street is painted, it leads to all kinds of questions for our street department. People think it's a detour. The neighbors start calling in and say, when are you going to dig up the street? Nobody can really understand what's going on. And then we're at the mercy of the elements to eventually wear off the paint or let it fade. So we want to make sure that there's a clear understanding that the streets are not to be painted in any way. I don't think the superintendent of public works would object to chalk, because the lifespan of the chalk is just a matter of days.
We have no problem just putting signage up. At the time, in the past, we've always done that, and we marked over it immediately afterwards after finding that out. But unfortunately, the markings was already on there once we had that protocol passed down to us. We have no reason to have to mark anything on the streets. We have different alternatives, and we'd be glad to do that.
Okay. I think that was the only concern. I do have Superintendent of Public Works, Dan Williams, if you'd like to come forward, please.
Yes, sir. I've talked with Tony and we've met, and I'm 100% sure at this time that we're on the same page, and I would ask you to pass whatever he's asking for. In years past, we've always worked well with him, and it's for a great cause. We talked about cones and barricades, and he's always returned everything, so I would ask that you pass that, please.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to comment on the request regarding permission to hold the 4th annual Shamrock Shuffle? No discussion? All right.
I'd make a motion that we approve the request for the annual Shamrock Shuffle as presented, and the permission to use the department cones. I think there's probably more from the street department, the police department, that you guys can work that all out.
Second.
So we have a request and a second to allow authorization to hold the Shamrock Shuffle and for the YMCA to use City of Logansport cones. We won't spell out if it's street department or police department cones, but we'll just call it City of Logansport cones. Been moved and properly seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. New business. Angie Wooten is not here. Dumpster request for milk coal. I am aware of this. Located at the corner of 9th and High Street. The dumpster is being requested to be placed on 9th Street during the time of to allow enough time to clean out the house and make improvements to the house as the plan specifies. I certainly think that they've gone above and beyond in cooperating with the city and at least knowing what our expectations are, and this is only a temporary request. So I make the motion to approve the request to place a dumpster on the corner of 9th and High.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Under reports, I have Building Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had submitted my report for your review. If you have any questions on the base report. I have request one order to appear, Mr. Juan Garcia or his representative to discuss the issues with the building at First in Melbourne. I believe he has a representative here to discuss that. Please come forward. I included photos of the existing roof in your files as well for your review. My position on it is that the roof has failed and collapsed down within the building. Around the outside edge there is trim. It is hanging down. The concern at this point is that we have no plan, or no known plan at this point in time, about a repair or correction to the roof system. I have talked to Mr. Garcia on the telephone a few times. What he has told me is that he purchased the building sight unseen, and he's relying on his local representative to monitor and take care of the building. So for me issuing a letter, it was procedural. I did try to call Bernadine once or twice, but we've been unable to make a connection. And I explained that to Mr. Garcia the last time he and I had talked. When we were talking on the phone last time, I alerted him to the fact that I was going to be issuing the letter, and so he would anticipate that he would be receiving.
Okay. Bernadine, are you the representative for Juan Garcia?
Yes, actually, I was up there, I don't know if Deb told you. I stopped in a couple times there to see him each month there. I sold this to, actually I bought it from Dick Dilling in September of '07 with the hole in the roof that had been there for a while. And I knew what I was buying because it was there, and it's got storage that isn't hurting anything. In December of '11, I sold it to Garcia to raise some money for over at Firestone, and in '12 I bought it, buying it back on contract. So it's mine. I mean, just like I told you, and the police department wouldn't know about renting the space down there. You know, this part here isn't affecting anything on mine. I own all the buildings there. It's all connected. So the center part of it is where the steel is. If you can see the one side of it here, this side all here is all intact. The guttering has been taken off. I didn't know if you've seen, and the steel replaced where the wind took it off in that windstorm.
Would be the south side of the building has the structural bargeway system in it, and the north side has still the wood framing system in it.
Is it the north side that's collapsed?
This would be the south side of the building, toward First Street.
First Street's over there.
Exactly, that would be south.
Yeah, this is one building. This is our other building. This is right there at the edge where he said a semi had backed into the center post right there. It's in 4 different sections. It's the center section down the center in this back part that has fallen down. And to us, it wasn't worth repairing that part because it could be an open storage where nobody sees. It hasn't affected. This is all enclosed. The outside's enclosed. But I wasn't worrying about it per se because it isn't affecting anything for us. I mean, just like it wasn't for Dilling. I mean, it's been there a few years before I bought it, and it's still there.
Is there a plan? Do you have a plan to take the
Not
roof
yet.
off?
Eventually, this part of the roof will come down. I mean, we'll take it because it's got wood slats, but they dropped on the inside there. The wood part is, and then the metal is showing up there. But I have pictures clear back from before I bought it all the way up because I've just kept track of it. But until I get things going over there, I hadn't planned on doing anything. I've got stuff in storage in here. That's got my stainless steel for the restaurant stuff, different things like that.
Inside this part that has the bad roof?
As you can see, this part right here, where the roof is all good, that's got table, chairs, different things like that. And the center part where it doesn't matter if it gets wet, it's got stainless awnings, things like that. And I had let the Logan's Landing use free of charge a space over here and continued even when I sold it to him. I told him to let them, but if that's a problem for them, I can move them out in a week or so. So they don't have storage over here because they used it for their steam machine and things like that. If that's a risk is what you're saying is, because they use this one clear over here. Otherwise, it's solely used by me, so if that's a problem, then I'll move them out of there.
Well, I mean, the building department's permission, I mean, I don't know about past history, I don't know how it's been like that. I've received 2 calls, primarily from some people that were working on a church facility, and they called me just to alert me of the fact that the roof had caved in. To be honest with you, before that call, I had not realized the roof had caved in. I had no access inside the building. But when we see a building in this type of a state, we have to make an announcement. And on my side primarily is that I think at the minimum, the city needs to issue some sort of announcement or release, because if there is a fire event in that facility, without knowing the condition of the rest of the building, roofs and systems in this type of condition, the fire department needs to be cautioned not to, in my opinion, not to enter or go on the roof if there is an event. And if that becomes a liability issue for the city not doing that, then I think an announcement needs to be made. Whether or not it's required to be, repaired, if you go by the local ordinances and the state code requirements, it is required to be repaired. I don't, and one thing you had said, Bernadine, is that you now have bought the property back from Mr. Juan Garcia.
I'm buying it. Yeah, it's on contract. I bought it I sold it to raise some money to do work down there, and now I'm buying it back, because instead of me paying storage, I'm just buying it. So, I've had a contract since last year.
And as a side note, I mean, the tax debt value on the property now is just under $7,000 on the tax rolls currently. I don't know if you have any utilities in the building, if you have power, if you have gas or water inside any of the building that could pose a problem.
Everything's been shut off in there. You can check the utilities on it, and there's never been any gas since I've owned it. We keep getting graffiti. That seems to be a constant thing down there. I mean, if you need proof of records, how far it was back, I can bring pictures before I bought it. Up until it's just, to me, it's a steel structure. It's got the brick around it with steel siding, and it's got steel trusses. The only wood is right through here. And that's the part that got knocked in the center. But
well, I mean, I wouldn't dispute past history. For me, it's a consistent condition. That's the reason that the issue was brought forward.
Okay.
I wondered how somebody would even see it. So if they were working on the church, then I understand that. Because otherwise,
yeah, that's how I was alerted.
I can certainly appreciate the challenge that you have before you in dealing with an old building like this. I would ask you to make an appointment with the building commissioner and to formulate a plan of action as to when you plan to address the issues that the building department has with the roof. If you could get with Bill and try to work out some details, and Bill, if you'd report back to us within, say, a month or so, what the action plan is. I've been inside that building myself many times, although it's been a few years back. As I recall, at least the west portion of that building's in really pretty good shape as far as for warehouse or storage.
yes,
Right.
The part I bought off the building was the part that had the damage from the semi.
I'm really not familiar, and again, you wouldn't
different
know that there
owners.
was a problem with the building had somebody not tipped us off to it, and but you certainly can't see it from the road. I was completely oblivious to the building even being in that condition.
And the gutter hanging down since it had dropped and that
Yeah.
metal had flew off has been taken care of.
So I would ask that you try to formulate a plan of action so that we can Bill can report back to us, and we can hopefully get it addressed, whatever your final plan will be. If you end up deciding to sell it or try to take the roof off, and as you mentioned, having an open warehouse, assuming that that's good with building codes. I just don't know. This is the first time that I've seen these photographs, and the first time that it's ever appeared on our Board of Works agenda. So we certainly want to give you every chance you can to. We certainly want to give you every chance to rehab the building and make it useful. We don't want to see it come down, but we'll work with you as long as we're making progress. Okay.
You need a second to your motion?
Yeah, well.
I'll second that.
Okay. The motion to ask for an extension contingent upon your efforts to reach out to the building commissioner and provide a plan of action. It's been made and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. On this portion of the building department report, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Thank you, Bernadine. Bill, do you have anything else?
I just wanted, nothing for Bernadine.
Thanks, Bernadine.
I would just like to request that the board, for next week's meeting, allocate a little bit more time to my portion of the meeting. I plan on presenting 6 to 8 properties for demolition, review, and approval at that point in time. That's the only.
Okay. And help me with the process. It's been a month or so. You explain your program, your plan to us, and then we have to advertise.
Yeah, based on being very conservative, the city attorney has put together a plan that once I present to the board and get the board's approval to perform demolition on an abandoned piece of property, I'm required to post a public notice in the newspaper for a period of time. The period of time is subjective, but after that is posted, that posting has to allow 10 calendar days for a response to that public notice posting. In addition to that, I also have to issue written notice to the specific owners of the property. And then once that notice is received, I have another 10 calendar day waiting period before I can react to the approval if it is there on a demolished property. So from the last round that we have done, we're looking at typically 15 days from the date of board approval before I can actually issue the contract to start demolition.
I'm not sure about the rest of these folks, but next Wednesday, the 30th, is a disaster as far as my schedule goes.
Okay.
Do you think we could postpone your detailed report until February 6th?
Sure.
Okay, I'd certainly appreciate if we could, just because next Wednesday is nearly impossible. I need every second that I can get.
And then as part of your process, somewhere along the line, you have like the title work research to make sure who owns what and where the taxes are. And
Yeah, as our process goes, once we identify an abandoned, unsafe structure, and we have exhausted our avenue to try to have that structure reconstructed by the owner, we automatically do a title search at that point in time. When we receive the title search, then we go to the next level of investigation to see if we can find a participant to reconstruct. Because we use the information from the title search to find out who the lien holders are on the property, contact them to see what type of negotiability they are willing to do to reduce the debt on the property to bring it into a more marketable state so that we can redevelop it. Once we go through that process and it is determined that it is not marketable, it has gone beyond any value, then it goes into the request for demolition.
okay, so that's already been done?
Yes,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
that's all.
Appreciate your hard work, Bill.
I would make a motion for the approval of the code enforcement officer.
Building
Building.
department.
Building.
Second.
Excuse me.
It's been moved and properly seconded to accept the building department report as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes on vote of 3-0. All right. Code enforcement officer.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
You have in front of you my report. Do you have any questions concerning my report down this portion where it says notice to appear? If not, I'll move on. Do have a couple old items for housekeeping purposes. The Perez family, father and son, that was here last week. Bill, being building commissioner, and I made an appointment. We were supposed to meet with the Perez's at their residence yesterday morning at 10 a.m. Yesterday morning about 7:15, I got a phone call from Mr. Andrew Hockey, who is an attorney here in town, and he told me he was now representing the Perez family in this matter. I don't think that he is representing them for any type of litigation or anything against the city. He indicated to me that they were just wanting help in understanding what was expected of them. But at any rate, since he has retained counsel, we made this decision, Bill and I made the decision that we were not going to meet with the Perez family until we discussed it with City Attorney Randy Head. So for now, until I have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Head, that one is on hold. And those addresses I said are on were 512 and 516 West Broadway. Okay, last week, some housekeeping last week, the board had issued an order for the cleanup of the Chuck Hickey property at 310 Montgomery Street. Late that afternoon, I received a phone call from Mr. Hickey pleading with me. Actually, I met with him in Chris's office. He was pleading with me to give him just a few extra days to try to get it cleaned up.
And he's done that, hasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand that. I understand it's looking very good, and so we're good with that. He's done it himself. Saves us a trip over there.
Moving on, Brett Lemons, 718 Bay Street. That place has been cleaned up. That was a fire in the garage, and it's in good shape. It's done. Stan Swafford at 700 Washington Street. This has been a continuation problem since I took over this job. He has got vehicle parts, motors, engines, tires, transmissions, had them on and off in his property. He'd always clean them up before it got to this point. I drove past this morning and there's still tires and engine parts and other debris laying in the backyard. I've got pictures if the board would like to see them.
I'd like to see him, please.
He has been served proper notice, certified mail, second letter. Not heard anything from him. I would request from the board that you issue a cleanup order of that property.
Did he sign for the letter?
Yes, I believe he did. It was sent to that address. I'd be honest with you, I don't remember whether it was returned because he refused to sign it or whether he re-signed it, whether he signed it, but it was sent to his address.
Okay. Says return to sender. No such number. Unable to forward. Return to sender. This one was dated January 8th, 2013. Okay, it doesn't appear as if he's been served.
If he wasn't served, it's because he refused to accept the paper. Past practice has always been if we send it and they refuse to accept it, then we go ahead with the cleanup. What's the address on the certified letter?
Stan Swafford, 700 Washington Street, Peru, Indiana.
Peru?
Peru, Indiana.
Okay. I'll resend it out then.
Okay. I make a motion that we table that request, the request for 700 Washington Street,
Second.
until we have proper notification. Yes, I'm sorry.
Next one is the Jeff Murray property, 508 Bay Street. And as normal, Jeff refused to sign for this letter. Pile of brush that I actually went to you and went over several months ago. It's branches that had fallen across the power line. Ellen went over there and cut those down. And left them laying in the yard. Mr. Murray has been sent the required letters. And he, as his past practice has always been, refused to sign for the letters.
George, do we have a policy in place that allows us, or does statute allow us to tape the notice to the door of the residence?
Yes, we always, if you look on there, there'll be a little yellow paper, a little yellow tab someplace stapled in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
That is the bottom half of the paper that I hang on the door notifying them of the violation. In other words, there's a door hanger, but it's perforated, and I tear that off.
Okay. Does that meet the statutory requirement
That's what the ordinance says, and Chris and I both have reviewed that several times.
City attorney's opinion the same, that meets the requirement?
I have not talked to Randy Head. I'm assuming it has, because this is the same policy that the previous administration operated under.
Sure.
With the door hanger, they're actually notified 3 times of the violation.
I think this is an ongoing problem. We've been to 508 Bates Street at least 2 times earlier this year. Is that?
Actually, it's closer to 5 or 6 times.
I make the motion that we order the property cleanup at 508 Bates Street.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion regarding the property at 508 Bates Street? Hearing none, all in favor of ordering a property cleanup at 508 Bates Street, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes on a vote of 3-0.
Next one, 701 Bates Street, William and Ginger Butner. I have had contact with them. I would make a request that we table that for 1 more week.
Okay, and next on your list?
Next is 604 Wheatland Avenue. This has been a problem that went on all summer. This letter finally got their attention, and that problem has been rectified.
Okay.
That's all I have.
425 Minor Street?
I apologize. 425 Minor Street is actually the address of the property owner of 604 Wheatland. And when I typed my report, I typed it in as their home residence instead of the residence of the location of the violation.
Okay, I'd make the motion we accept the report of the code enforcement officer as presented. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes on a vote of 3-0. Thank you. Superintendent of Public Works.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I respectively submit my report for the Mount Hope Cemetery and also the Logansport Street Department. Have a couple minutes, thumb through it. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those at this time.
Are you through picking up Christmas trees yet?
We still do that. Past administration put a cutoff date, but we still travel and pick up limbs, and what we do, we pick up Christmas trees also. Yes, sir.
Okay, I've noticed the liquid brine, the salt mixture going down on the bridges, the bridges that we're responsible for.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about that?
Yes, we are in a process of going for a liquid de-icer, which the savings are enormous, and I'm having all kinds of trouble figuring out exactly how much it is, but right now it's like a 60% savings on just salt that we use. We're responsible for 3 bridges in the city, and
what are those 3 bridges? Which 3 bridges?
3rd Street at Biddle's Island, those 2 that almost connect, we do those, and 18th Street.
And 18th Street.
Yes, sir. And if you figure them up, they're about a mile, and it roughly, without going on, it's going to be with right at a 60% savings. And a ton of salt is like $60 the way we buy it. Mm-hmm. And we'll be using like $5 out of that 60 to do a mile. So it's just enormous. We've changed things around numerous times, and I think today we've got the right one. We're out doing it as we speak. It'll be something that down the road, not only do we save fuel and salt and product, it's a big taxpayer savings.
Mm-hmm. I would assume that you probably save money in labor as well.
Ton of labor, unbelievable.
Is that because you actually send the guys out during their regular 7 to 3 or 8
we don't
4 work
call
schedule?
them up at midnight and say the bridges are freezing over, and
you don't have to pay the overtime.
Right.
I see.
Okay. Plus, if you use sand or salt, there's a big savings in the drains too.
Oh.
The sand and salt always gets pushed to the curb, and then it goes down to the drains, and this way it's going to help LMU with their drains also.
Are you ready for Friday morning?
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Like we're going to have 2 to 4 inches of snow.
We're always ready. We had a little bit of snow flurries Monday, and it was where we put this down. it just, when it almost looked like it evaporated, the little bit of snow that we got. So very excited about it, and this was one of the things when you became mayor you had on your list. And last year we didn't have a lot of snow, and you've been after me to do that, and I'm glad to. We're probably 85% where we need to be.
It's all because of Chris reminding me.
Okay. All right.
All right.
But it's a good program. The state of Indiana has been very helpful. They walked us through it from the beginning, and we copied some of their tanks and so forth, and it's a big savings.
Looks like internments are going good as well.
Very busy.
Probably too good.
Yeah.
Better than we like.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd make the motion to approve the report of the Superintendent of Public Works as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. The chief of police could not be here today. He has a plate full, and the fire chief as well. So they're not required to report weekly. It's only monthly. Are there any board member comments? Is there any miscellaneous business, including matters not already considered? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.